So my question for each and everyone here today is, when was the last time you saw a creative storm go through your organization? A creative storm. When was the last time that you and your team felt a massive burst of innovation and creativity where you saw it go by? You said, wow, we are awesome. We rock. So my question for each and all of you here today is, what's your creative storm reading? Are you a 1 or are you a 10? Do you have a soft breeze of creativity in your organization? Do you have fog? Or do you have a storm brewing? Massive innovation. I want everyone to stare at the screen for a second and take a deep breath. Everybody? How does that make you feel? What if tomorrow you invited Nelson Cabral from Canada into your organization and he showed up there with the creative storm? How would that feel? Do you think we'd bust down some barriers? You think we'd do some good stuff when it comes to branding and marketing? Now, what if you don't leave here today and unleash creative storms? What if you say, oh, that crazy guy Nelson from Canada, oh, he's crazy, let's not listen to anything he says? What if you leave here today and tomorrow you unleash no creative storms? What is your organization going to feel like 6 to 12 months from now? Maybe productivity would be down. Maybe no investors, no business development. Morale would be low. But let me ask you, what if you do leave here today and adopt some of the principles I'm going to talk about, and you start unleashing creative storms? What would your organization feel like 6 to 12 months from now? Do you think you'd attract some big whales? You think business development would boom? You think your teams would be more effective, higher productivity, if you unleashed a creative storm? So as I go through the program today, I want you to think about, what is my creative storm reading? What am I doing right now in my organization to inspire creativity and innovation for my marketing and branding? I want you to think about that. Now, I've been a creative director in the advertising business for 25 years, and I understand how difficult it can be to come up with new ideas on a consistent basis. For 25 years, I've seen clients, organization, and leaders have no idea what they're doing when it comes to managing creativity and innovation. So what thought I would do with you during our time together today is give you my innovation strategies and leadership tools, the ones that I've used for over 25 years, to unleash creative storms, to unleash the highest levels of innovation and thus business development. Does that sound good? Excellent. Before I begin in talking about my methodology of the creative storm, I thought I would give you some very quick facts about creative leadership. Creative leadership is now becoming the most sought-after leadership style in all industries. I've been an executive in the industries of entertainment, design, marketing, and advertising for close to 25 years, and creative leadership is the thing there. But right now, it's being taken out of the creative industries and put into other industries. And that's because creative leaders are very, very good with ambiguity and experimentation. That's why creative leadership is the thing. And not just for leaders. It's for people at all levels in an organization. So some mind-blowing facts about creative leadership: 67% of a team's creative climate is directly linked to their leader. When I saw this stat, I said, no, that's not possible, because there's superstars in my department. There's superstars working at my company. 67% of a team's creative climate is directly linked to the leader. So guess what? If you don't have a good environment where you're working right now, yes, it's the leader's fault, I'm sorry to say. So again, let's go back to my question. What's your creative storm reading? What's your climate in your organization right now when it comes to creativity and innovation? I want to push that down everyone's collective throats. What is your creative storm reading? Teams using basic creativity tools produce 100% more ideas than teams without tools. So if you want to be more innovation, if you want to see more innovation or be more creative in your organization, there's tools, techniques, and processes that you can use to be more creative. It's not just these people over here. Oh, these people over here are creative, and these people over here are not creative. Everyone can be creative, and everyone can train themselves to be more creative. And the third mind-blowing fact, there was a study done by IBM a few years ago, and CEOs were asked, what's the #1 trait and characteristic that CEOs want to see in their leaders at all levels? The #1 trait. Anyone? Go ahead. Creativity. What's your name? Lolita. Lolita. Big round of applause for Lolita for getting the right answer. I would be thinking that it would be other things like influence, dedication, global thinking, integrity. The #1 trait that CEOs want to see in leaders and managers at all levels in their organization, creativity. And that's because creative leaders, I'm going to say it again, are the best at dealing with experimentation and ambiguity. Creativity. That's why creative leadership is the future of leadership. I have something that I created about 5 years ago called the Creative Leader Superhero Trifecta. The Creative Leader Superhero Trifecta. So right now, I'm going to reveal to you how you can become the best leader. How you can become the best leader. And here's how you do it. You need to think about creative culture, you need to think about leadership, and you need to think about individual creativity and performance. That's the trifecta. So if you truly want to unleash massive innovation in your organization, whether you're a leader or not, you need to continually focus on those three things: culture, leadership, and individual creativity/performance. So if you look at the trifecta diagram behind me, you're going to see Catherine Bigelow on the left there is a famous female director. Directors are very good at creating creative cultures. You'll see Peggy Olson on the right side up there. Anybody know Mad Men? Mad Men. How much do we love Peggy Olson? She's fantastic. She would represent creative leadership because she's very good at inspiring risk. And then finally, you see Idina Menzel. Anybody know who Idina Menzel is? Fantastic Broadway singer. She's incredibly good at inspiring individual creativity and performance. She sang the song Frozen, by the way. So that's the trifecta. Creative culture, bringing together with creative leadership, and being brought together with individual creativity. That's one for women. The one for men, you see Martin Scorsese there. He's a director. Film directors, very, very good. They're all about creative culture, creating that culture. And then you see Don Draper, again from Mad Men. How much do we love Mad Men? I miss that show so much. Don Draper, creative leadership, very good at inspiring risk. And then Nathan Lane, great Broadway performer, all about individual creativity. So if you want to become a creative leader, you need to think about individual creativity/performance, leadership, and culture. That's the creative leadership trifecta. So, I'm from Canada, and Canada has provinces. I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, but now I live on the beautiful east coast of Canada. I live in a province called New Brunswick. Invest New Brunswick is the exact same department or crown corporation as who's hosting you here today. I've been their brand strategist, creative director, and senior copywriter for almost half a decade now. They engaged me a little while back to rebrand. Why? Because no one has any idea where New Brunswick is. And is New Brunswick on anyone's consideration list for investment? No. No. New Brunswick found out that there was a lot of prospects considering relocation and expansion, and New Brunswick said to themselves, we should do some research. And we found out that we were not on anybody's consideration list. Nobody had any idea where New Brunswick was. New Brunswick? Why would I relocate or expand to New Brunswick? Maybe Toronto, Vancouver, New York, maybe even Halifax. New Brunswick? I don't think so. So Nelson Cabral came in, and I had to come up with a way we could communicate our value proposition. Now, if you look at that ad right there, that was an ad and a brochure and something that I actually created. The headline is, "Consider New Brunswick as a site location." I came up with that. And it's horrible. It's horrible. So that's the type of communications that Invest New Brunswick was doing for a long time. And I accepted it. I accepted the status quo. I was okay. I was comfortable. They were paying me lots of money. Oh, let's just continue to do the usual thing. Right? I did that. It's horrible. So I woke up one day and I said to myself, guess what? It's time that Invest New Brunswick disrupted the status quo. Nobody knows who we are, and nobody's investing in New Brunswick. We're not on anyone's consideration list. I decided then and there that I would take them through my 9 forces of creative leadership. I decided, you know what? We need to unleash a creative storm and Invest New Brunswick. Or guess what? They're not going to attract investors. Let me quickly take you through the 9 forces of creative leadership and the things I did with Invest New Brunswick. So how did Nelson Cabral create climates with Invest New Brunswick? I had to go in there and I had to awaken and unleash force 1. And remember what I said before? Culture, leadership, individual creativity? You bet. You're going to see 3 forces for culture, 3 forces for leadership, and 3 forces for individual creativity. So how did Nelson Cabral go into Invest New Brunswick and create climates? The first thing I needed to do, and it's something I do with a lot of organizations, I go in there and I do an audit. I do a self-assessment. And I look at the 6 biggest problems that stifle creativity, the creativity killers, I call them. We had to go in there and blow away the biggest barriers. Number 1, fear of the new. How many of you are working in an organization right now where once in a while we're a little bit scared of new ideas, we're a little bit scared of change, right? So I had to go in there and basically look at Invest New Brunswick and say, you know what, do they have issues with fear of the new? Guess what, they did. Look at that ad I showed you that I did. I had a fear of the new. So fear of the new was a big one for Invest New Brunswick. Number 2, inertia. Not just in leaders, but in all their people. Was there some inertia at Invest New Brunswick? You bet. Number 3, bureaucracy, a rigid hierarchy. All the ideas come from the offices over here. All the ideas that are talked about down here, there's no one championing those ideas. All the ideas came from up here. Bureaucracy, rigid hierarchy. So those first 3, I'll be full transparency, working with Invest New Brunswick, those were the 3 barriers. And that's why we couldn't be innovative or creative with our marketing and branding. I'll take it quickly through the others. Number 4, quarterly profit demands. The demand for profits every year, at certain times of the year, would force the leaders to make different decisions. And they would decide not to go down a route of innovation because of quarterly profit demands. Again, fear of change. 5, conflicts with others. And number 6, office politics. So I go into companies, and I have an audit, I do an assessment, and I look on whether or not these creativity killers exist. And for Invest New Brunswick, I needed to dig down deep and work on the first 3. Force 2. How did Nelson Cabral go into Invest New Brunswick and rattle cages? How did I go in there and try to inspire risk? What I did is I can introduce them to the Nelson Touch. I have a methodology that I call the Nelson Touch, and it's all about inspiring risk. Now, for those of you with computers and mobile phones, if you want, I can give you 15 seconds right now. If you want to go to your mobile phone right now and go to nelsoncabral.ca/resources, Nelson, Cabral, Portuguese last name, cabral.ca/resources. And if you just want to bookmark that page, I'm going to get back to that page in just a second. But you'll find the Nelson Touch there. So what is the Nelson Touch? When I work with organizations and when I work with InvestNB, we had to come up with ideas for new branding and marketing. When I work with organizations and we do the Nelson Touch, I'm not expecting 4 ideas. I'm not expecting 15 ideas. I'm not even expecting 25 ideas. I'm expecting 30 ideas. When you work with Nelson Cabral and you do the Nelson Touch, for every single challenge, you have to come up with 30 ideas. It's all about quantity over quality, at least at first. 30 ideas, and here's how it works. You need to come up with 10 ideas in what I call the half Nelson category. Half Nelson, and those are ideas that are status quo, safe, and conventional. And no offense to my friends who work for government organizations right now, but would we all agree that a lot of time, government organizations, we live in the half Nelson category, safe, status quo. And I'm not trying to criticize anybody. Trust me, I've been there. I've worked with government organizations for a long time. It can be difficult. So that's the half Nelson category. Come up with 10 ideas in the half Nelson category. Then you need to come up with 10 ideas in the full Nelson category. And those are ideas that are a little bit more unexpected, a little bit more unconventional. And then here's where the magic happens. Then you need to come up with 10 ideas in the lower Nelson category. And these are ideas that are really unexpected, very risky. NelsonCabral.ca/resources. You will see a one-page PDF there. Feel free to download it, print copies for your team, give your husband or wife copies. Always have the Nelson Touch by your side. Very, very powerful when it comes to coming up with new ideas. So how did Nelson Cabral embrace collaboration with InvestNB? Culture force number 3. It's all about leaving your ego at the door. It's all about replacing idea ownership with idea improvement. Lolita, can I get you to come up on stage with me for just a second? I just need a volunteer for just one quick second. So when I say idea ownership versus idea improvement, right now I'm going to come up with a new idea, and I'm going to write it on this napkin. So this is my idea. I came up with this idea. I'm going to give it to Lolita. Actually, no, it's my idea. I came up with this idea, and I want to sell it to my executive team. Lolita, can you take my idea? No, I'm going to hold on to my idea. This is my idea, all right? That's the way we used to do it. We don't do it like that anymore. So here I am coming up with an idea. Lolita's going to take my idea and take my marker. I am going to give it to you this time. So idea ownership versus idea improvement. Lolita's now going to look at the idea, and she's going to improve the idea. She's going to communicate with me verbally. What do you think of my idea? How do you think we could make the idea better?
Well, just a few touches, I guess.
Excellent. Look at that. Look at that. We enabled collaboration. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for Lolita. And you can keep my idea and my marker, actually. So what we just did there is ping pong, right? So you have to think about collaborating. And that's what I did with InvestNB, both client and my team. At nelsoncabral.ca/resources, you'll also see some posters there. Creativity crushing phrases and creativity inspiring phrases. You can take a picture right now, but you can also download these at my website. There's a PDF there. I want you to memorize these. I want you to go back to your organization or wherever you work, and you need to memorize these. Because here's what happens. Somebody comes up with an idea, and there's somebody that responds in a certain way that completely stifles creativity. Here's some of the phrases. We can't do that. We don't have the budget. Client will never go for it. That won't work. We already tried that. I don't like that idea. We don't do it that way here. I love that one. I hear that all the time. Oh, we don't do it that way here. Right? And then replace those phrases with creativity inspiring phrases. Keep talking. Tell me more. There's something there. I like that. That's a neat idea. What if? Start to shift the way you communicate with your team members in terms of innovation and creativity. Leadership Force 4. How did Nelson Cabral go into Invest New Brunswick and activate communication in order to attract investors and boost business development? What I did as a leader is I pretended I had a megaphone in my hand. And I forced everyone to listen to each other. And I forced myself to give everyone a voice. As creative director, I had to inspire creativity in people, but I also wanted to make sure that I nudged them. I encouraged them. I gave everyone a voice. Communication is now becoming the biggest superpower for leaders. It's all about making sure that everyone has a voice, and you force everyone to listen to each other. I did that with Invest New Brunswick, both with the client and my team. Leadership Force 5, trigger strategy. How did Nelson Cabral go into Invest New Brunswick and trigger strategy so that we could attract investors and boost business development? Anybody know what type of a tree or plant that is? Bamboo. Very good. What's the interesting thing about bamboo? Bamboo is strong and firm, right? Bamboo is strong and firm, but bamboo can also move with the winds of change. Move with the winds of change. Imagine as a leader, you actually believe that you are bamboo. So my advice for you when it comes to triggering strategy is be bamboo. As a leader, you have to make the tough decisions. At InvestNB, when somebody started to come up with ideas for me, you know what? I love ideas. You heard me before. I love to hear ideas from here. I even love to hear about Lord Nelson ideas. I'm all about accepting ideas. But I'm the creative director. And every once in a while, I need to defy you, and I need to say no. I need to say no because why? Because it's not anchored to business objectives. I'm all about creativity. I love creativity. But I don't care about creativity unless it's a business building idea. It's all about business objectives. So as a leader, you have to be bamboo. You have to be strong and firm. You have to learn to say no and kill those great ideas for the sake of the work. For Invest New Brunswick, we had to get investors. I don't care if you've got this great idea. If it's not going to help me and help my team build InvestNB and get people to invest in New Brunswick, then I'm not going to accept it. I am bamboo. Be bamboo. Leadership Force 6, Ignite Cheerleader. How did Nelson Cabral go into Invest New Brunswick and ignite cheerleader to attract investors? I went in there, and with my team and with client, I celebrated success and I celebrated failure. As a leader, you need to be infectious with your energy. As a leader, you need to be passionate. You need to be positive. You need to celebrate people, but not just their successes. When somebody makes a mistake, you celebrate failure too. And I keep talking about tools and processes and techniques. NelsonCabral.ca/resources. Grab these 3 certificates of celebration and failure. And what I did when I was working with InvestNB is every week I awarded somebody the Storm and Norman Award. And the Storm and Norman Award is the creative leader most effective at consistently inspiring winning teams. I also gave out the Stormtrooper of the Month Award. I also gave out the Creative Storm Impact Award. So when I enculturated these awards into my culture and my processes, do you think me as a leader, I naturally became a little bit more cheerleader? I did. Performance Force 7, value empathy. How did Nelson Cabral walk into Invest New Brunswick and value empathy so we could attract more investors? Value empathy. It's all about the customer. I told you before, we did some research. Sorry, Invest New Brunswick is not on anyone's list. Nobody knows about New Brunswick. We're not on anyone's list, right? So we talked to the prospects and they said, sorry, you're not on our list. We also did research and we found out that in North America, prospects will choose a location based on the most talented workforce. So IBM and other companies that want to relocate and expand, they're going to choose Latvia or New Brunswick or a different location based on the workforce, based on a skilled workforce. Empathy, customer insights. All Nelson's creativity has got to be anchored to insights. So that's what I found out. I found out that all the prospects in North America that are going to be choosing a location, they are basing it on a skilled workforce. Huge. Huge for me and my team. And I'm going to get back to that in just a second. Performance Force 8, empower imagination. How did Nelson Cabral empower imagination with InvestNB? I taught them the 3 I's. I'm not sure if anyone here knows a very, very basic creativity tool. It's called the 3 I's. Immersion, incubation, and illumination. The 3 I's. Every time you have a challenge, every time you need to be creative with something, I recommend the 3 I's. You immerse yourself in your challenge. You read up everything you can. You put it in your brain. And then you shut your brain off. You turn your brain off to turn creativity on. Because your subconscious is a great thing. All the stuff you put in your brain during immersion, it'll leave your conscious mind, go into your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind will do all the work. You incubate, you get away from it. And then you come back to it. And that's when illumination happens. So with my team at Invest New Brunswick, we did this. We'd work for 24 hours, and then we wouldn't touch it for 24 hours. Then we'd come back to it. We would incubate on it. Immersion, incubation, illumination. That's how you can empower your own personal creativity. The final force, Performance Force 9. How did Nelson Cabral spark generators with my team in Invest New Brunswick to attract investors? I played chess, not checkers. So as a leader, you really need to audit your team. You need to think about, who do I have? What are their skill sets? And how do they move? How do they work? The best leaders play chess, not checkers. They think about everyone on their team, and they orchestrate the talent. And that's what I did with Invest New Brunswick, both client and my actual team. So I had to work hard to spark generators. You know, you can't treat everybody on your team the exact same way because they're all different. So next time you're leading innovation, think about everyone on your team and how do they move? What kind of a chess player are they? So the new role of the leader is you have to awaken the 9 forces. You have to awaken the 9 forces. And there they are. And if you look at the first letter of every force, it spells out creatives. Because that's what you need to do. As a creative leader, you need to do 2 things. You need to produce creatives. You need to produce people that are fast idea generators and easy collaborators. And the second thing you need to do, you saw me at the front, is unleash a creative storm. So creatives stands for creatives, the professional, but creatives also stands for creative storm. So my question for each and all of you here today is, how many of these forces are you actually unleashing on a daily basis? How many of these forces, whether you're a leader or not, if you want to ignite innovation and creativity, how many of these forces are you unleashing? When I go into organizations and I do that audit, what I find is there's a lot of organizations doing a lot of great leadership stuff and a lot of great culture stuff, but sometimes they're forgetting about the individual creativity and performance. So usually I find organizations will have 2 of the 3 of the trifecta. Let's go back to Invest New Brunswick and this horrible ad that I presented that got approved that didn't have much success. Remember, Invest New Brunswick, not on anyone's consideration list at all. So I took them through the process, and we came up with half Nelson ideas, full Nelson ideas, and Lord Nelson ideas. And I will tell you, it's the first time that I ever presented a Lord Nelson idea to a government organization. Very, very difficult to sell Lord Nelson ideas to a government organization. Here's one of the Lord Nelson ideas that I presented. New Brunswick, Canada's best-kept investment secret. If you see in the first ad, there's somebody that has actually gotten in trouble because he didn't invest in New Brunswick. So he has to write on a chalkboard 100 times. And what did he write out? New Brunswick has 30% lower cost of doing business. He had to write that out. So people are getting in big trouble because they're not investing in New Brunswick. The other guy's in the corner. He was put in the corner by his executive because he failed to invest in New Brunswick. That was one of the Lord Nelson ideas. Let's look at one of the other Lord Nelson ideas, which I call where business comes naturally. Again, I needed to come up with a concept that was going to push the value proposition of the province of New Brunswick. I came up with an idea that was basically the canvas was wildlife and nature. Because if anyone's ever been to New Brunswick, it's very rural, and there's lots of wildlife in New Brunswick. So that's a characteristic that is actually very well known. So we actually created a spokesperson called the Moose. Got an animal instinct for business? We do. Looking to invest in a powerful workforce? Let's lock horns. Business is second nature to us. Making you money is first. So we presented this to the client, and the client was kind of intrigued by it. But then, we also went back to that insight. The insight that prospects are going to choose a location based on a skilled workforce. So collaborating with the client, we actually created a group of spokespeople that represented each industry that actually is in New Brunswick. This is New Brunswick's spokespeople per industry. We have modular fabrication, IT, defense, finance and insurance, mining, and business process outsourcing. So we came up with a Lord Nelson idea, and guess what? The client accepted it. I sold this concept to Invest New Brunswick. Anchored ferociously to that insight that our workforce is skilled. New Brunswick, where business comes naturally. New Brunswick's finance industry means business. New Brunswick's finance people are focused like eagles, and that's an actual eagle that you can find in New Brunswick. New Brunswick's insurance workers mean business. Our insurance workers are wise like owls. My favorite, my absolute favorite, is the fox. IT workers, our IT workers are clever like a fox. New Brunswick's IT workers mean business. New Brunswick's back office workers mean business. Smart like a dolphin. And again, these are all animals that you could find in New Brunswick. And finally, New Brunswick's mine workers mean business. We are grounded. So we full out went forward with promoting the skilled workforce. Some promotional material. There's my girlfriend, the fox, clever like a fox. There she is again. We had brochures that we sent out. And here's where the magic happened. Now, for a government organization, you're probably looking at this and saying, what? We did bobbleheads? Yes. We did a direct mail campaign bobbleheads, and we sent a bobblehead to every single prospect we knew that was looking to expand or relocate. And here's the box that went out to insurance companies. The headline on the box, the who's who of insurance businesses have made their nest here, open up and learn more. So they got a bobblehead. And guess what happened when the prospect got the bobblehead? They walked around their office, showed it to the CEO, showed it to everybody. So when New Brunswick's team at InvestNB actually called to follow up, do you think they answered the phone? They answered the phone. And they understood the magic of New Brunswick. Our insurance workers are wise. If you look at the headline right there on the bobblehead, New Brunswick's insurance workers are wise. Do you think prospects started to put New Brunswick on their consideration list? The answer is yes. And here's what's even more exciting. When you do a direct mail campaign in North America, you usually get a 5% response rate. Guess what? Nelson Cabral and the Creative Storm and Invest New Brunswick, we got a 52% response rate with this direct mail campaign. 52%. And guess what? It wasn't a half Nelson idea. It wasn't even a full Nelson idea. It was a Lord Nelson idea that the client was willing to take a chance with. I'm going to skip that page for a second and go to this page. Nelson Cabral, the creative guy, loves awards. Oh, I love to get awards for my creativity. And I did win awards at the Economic Development Association of Canada, EDAC, and also the International Economic Development Council. #2 economic development brand in the world. #2 economic development brand in the world. But that's not the point. The point is, did we get companies investing in New Brunswick? Yes, we did. We got business results. We got business results. So here's my challenge to you. What I want you to do is think about your organization. Think about a challenge you may have in your organization right now. And I want you to think about the 9 forces of creative leadership. And over the next 7 days, I want you to unleash and awaken one of these forces and apply it to that exact challenge. And feel free to reach out to me after that, tell me how it goes. So what have we learned today? We've learned that, you know what? Innovation is hard. Marketing and branding is hard. Government marketing and branding is hard, very hard. But if you can embrace the creative storm, and if you can start to adopt and use the 9 forces of creative leadership, you will unleash innovation, and your organization will reach heights you never thought possible. I encourage everybody to go away, and when they get back to their organization tomorrow, to think about the creative storm. And remember, the most powerful force in business and in life is creativity. My name's Nelson Cabral. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nelson.
Pleasure.
I encourage anyone to come forward, or at least speak up, and ask one question. I have time for one question only. Anyone there's? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have one question for you.
Oh, excellent. Wonderful.
You talked about the 9 forces. I have a question which is, you call them 9 forces of creative leadership, right? Creatives, right? What is the most important force, if you would recommend the audience?
Wow, what a great question. As you can probably see, all 9 forces have got to come together. They all have to come together in a perfect storm. So all 9 forces are key, but the one force that you saw me spending a lot of time with, especially with Invest New Brunswick, was force number 2, which is rattle cages. And I know rattle cages is a term that is heavy, but that simply means inspire risk. So I would go with force number 2, which is inspire risk. Each and every day, again, especially in government organizations, I'm not saying go to the Lord Nelson every single time, but all I'm saying is when it comes to marketing and branding and differentiation and thinking differently, I encourage everybody to just take some small steps. Were those bobbleheads a big step for Invest New Brunswick? Yeah. Were the animals as humans a big step for Invest New Brunswick? Yeah. I'm not saying you all need to do that, but when I say rattle cages, force number 2, think about inspiring risk in yourself and your team at a higher level. So I encourage everyone to leave today and going back tomorrow to their place of work and thinking about force number 2, but all the forces as well. So great question. Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you. We don't have time for more questions.
Okay, great.
I have more.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.